They thought he was just a weak, washed-up old drifter. They were dead wrong. These bandits have no clue they're mocking a lethal war veteran who's far from finished. And now, he's about to teach them a lesson they'll never live to forget. The story kicks off in 1870, deep in the heart of Wichita Falls, Texas. Now, it's been 5 years since slavery was officially abolished across America. But out here, the roots of hatred and discrimination still run incredibly deep. People from different communities are practically thirsty for each other's blood. But right in the middle of all this chaos, we meet a retired Army captain named Captain Kyle Kidd. He's a man who doesn't care about the color of your skin or where you come from. He travels from city to city, charges a tiny 10-cent fee, and reads the latest news to the locals so everyday people can actually know what's happening around the globe. The next morning, Captain Kidd packs up his horses and hits the road, heading toward his next destination. But he doesn't get very far before he spots a wrecked wagon abandoned on the trail. At first glance, it looks like a tragic accident. But as he gets closer, the true horror of the scene reveals itself. It's absolutely heart-wrenching. An African-American man, the driver of the wagon, has been brutally hanged from a tree, murdered for nothing more than pure hatred and the color of his skin. Suddenly, the captain spots movement in the nearby bushes. It's a young girl wearing traditional Native American clothing, and the moment she sees him, she panics and bolts. The captain sprints after her, manages to catch her, and tries to calm her down. But there's a major problem. She only speaks the Kiowa language, and the captain doesn't understand a single word. Realizing he can't leave her out here, he signals for her to follow him. While searching the wrecked wagon, he discovers her official documents. Her real name is Johanna Leon Berger. Just then, a unit of Union Army soldiers rides up. The captain shows them the paperwork and explains that the murdered driver was likely transporting Johanna somewhere. The officer in charge doesn't want to deal with it, so he orders the captain to take Johanna to the nearest Union outpost himself and rides off. With absolutely no other options, the captain has to step up. But before they leave, he makes sure to give the murdered driver a respectful, proper burial. He takes Johanna with him, and as night falls, they set up camp. It's here, reading through her documents, that the captain uncovers a devastating truth. 6 years ago, a German immigrant family was attacked, and their parents were killed. Johanna was kidnapped by the Kiowa tribe when she was just a toddler, and she grew up as one of them. Then, not long ago, the Union Army raided a Kiowa camp and rescued her. The man who was just hanged was actually hired to take Johanna to her only surviving relatives, an aunt and uncle living in a town called Castroville. But now, she is completely alone in the world once again. The captain shares his food with her, completely dedicated to helping her get back to a safe place. The next morning, they finally arrive at the Union checkpoint. But when they get there, a military officer drops some terrible news. The specific agent who handles child welfare cases is out on the road and won't be back for another 3 months. The officer bluntly tells the captain to just keep the girl with him until then. But the captain can't do that. He's a traveler, he doesn't have a permanent home. So, he tracks down an old friend and his wife who live nearby. After explaining the desperate situation, the couple agrees to watch over Johanna, and the captain leaves her in their safe hands. But the peace doesn't last long. When the captain returns to their house later that night, his friends are frantic. Johanna has panicked, escaped, and runs straight out into the middle of a raging midnight storm. All 3 of them immediately grab lanterns and sprint into the darkness to search for her. After a desperate search through the downpour, the captain finally finds Johanna standing on the edge of a roaring river. Across the rushing water, a moving group of Native Americans is traveling by. Johanna is screaming out to them at the top of her lungs, desperately hoping they will hear her Kiowa tongue and take her back home. But the howling winds and rushing rapids completely drown out her cries, and the group rides away into the night. Left behind and soaked to the bone, Johanna's health takes a massive hit, and she begins shivering violently. The captain wraps her up and carries her back to his friend's house. Seeing how deeply traumatized and fragile she is, the captain realizes he can't leave her with strangers. He makes a major choice. He will personally escort Johanna to her aunt and uncle in Castroville, even though it's a grueling, incredibly dangerous 400-mile journey. The next morning, his friend hooks him up with a solid buggy and 2 strong horses. And since the trails ahead are crawling with bandits and outlaws, his friend hands him a shotgun and a handful of ammunition for protection. With that, Captain Kidd and Johanna hit the open road. Johanna still doesn't understand his language, but the captain looks at her and promises that he is taking her home. He also explains that they'll need to work and read the news in towns along the way so they can earn enough money to survive the long trek. They push forward for 6 straight days until they finally roll into the bustling city of Dallas. There, the captain meets up with another old friend named Ella Gannett, who runs a local inn. Ella welcomes them with open arms and serves them a hot, fresh meal. During dinner, Johanna is in high spirits, smiling and beautifully singing a traditional Kiowa song. When the captain fills Ella in on the girl's backstory, Ella is stunned to realize Johanna is completely disconnected from her past. She speaks the language of her tribal captors, but she remembers absolutely nothing about her biological German family. And since the army destroyed her Kiowa family, this poor girl has essentially been orphaned twice. Ella gives them a comfortable room to rest up, and later that night, she and the captain catch up. We learn a deeply personal detail. The captain's actual home is on the way to Castroville, but he hasn't set foot there in 5 long years. Despite being away for so long, it's clear he still deeply loves his wife. Later that evening, the captain wraps up his news reading session for the locals and heads back. But suddenly, an ex-soldier named Alme and his 2 gritty henchmen block his path. These men are human traffickers, and they bluntly offer to buy Johanna from the captain for a sickening price. The captain immediately steps in front of Johanna, refusing to let them near her. Alme gets aggressive and prepares to attack, but thankfully, a passing patrol of Union soldiers intercepts them and forces the thugs to back down. Knowing they are in extreme danger, the captain wastes no time. He grabs Johanna, hitches the wagon, and rolls out of Dallas under the cover of night. But the threat isn't over. As dawn breaks over the horizon, the captain looks back and spots Alme and his men relentlessly tracking them on horseback. The captain whips the horses, driving the wagon up a steep, rocky mountain path to find high ground. Alme and his men open fire, the bullets splintering the wood around them. Realizing the wagon is a sitting duck, the captain abandons it, grabs Johanna, and sprints up into the high rocks to take cover. An intense, high-stakes shootout begins, echoes of gunfire ringing across the mountain. The captain fires back with his pistol, carefully aiming and successfully taking down one of Alme's men. But tragedy strikes, his pistol clicks empty. The only ammunition he has left is birdshot for his shotgun, which lacks the power to stop a man from a distance. Realizing they are cornered, the captain turns to Johanna and desperately tells her to run and save herself while he tries to distract them. But Johanna refuses to abandon him. Instead, she risks her life, sneaks back down to the abandoned wagon, and grabs the heavy metal coins the captain earned from reading the news. She sprints back up and shows him a genius trick. They can open the birdshot shells, pour out the tiny pellets, and pack them full of heavy metal coins instead. Working frantically against the clock, she loads the coins into the shells. The captain takes the improvised ammo, aims, and fires. The blast of flying coins hits another one of Alme's men, dropping him instantly. Moving deeper into the rocks, the captain uses a clever distraction to draw Alme out, pulls the trigger, and puts an end to the villain once and for all. With the danger past, they hit the trail again, and during the long hours on the road, they start bonding, teaching each other words from their respective languages. But during the lesson, Johanna recognizes a specific German word. The sudden flood of memories of her long-lost biological parents completely breaks her heart, and she gets incredibly sad. The captain gently comforts her, keeping her spirits up as they move forward. Eventually, they reach the border of Erath County, but their path is blocked by a ruthless, self-appointed dictator named Farley and his heavily armed militia. Farley is running a brutal, lawless operation. He and his men have driven out or slaughtered the Mexican and African American populations, and they are now forcing the remaining locals into near slavery to harvest and skin buffalo for his illegal empire. When Farley finds out that Kid is a professional newsreader, he sees a perfect propaganda opportunity. He forces the captain to hold a public reading, handing him a custom, heavily censored newspaper designed to paint Farley as a heroic, godlike leader. Farley wants his workers kept completely ignorant of the outside world. But Captain Kidd refuses to be a pawn. Instead of reading Farley's lies, he flips the script. He begins passionately reciting a real, inspiring news story about a group of brave coal miners in Pennsylvania who risked everything to save each other's lives during a catastrophic collapse. The powerful story hits the audience like lightning, igniting a fiery spark of hope, unity, and rebellion in the hearts of Farley's oppressed workers. As the crowd begins to riot, the captain grabs Johanna and tries to slip away in the chaos. But Farley's men are too fast, they surround them and pin them down. A furious Farley draws his weapon, aiming it straight at the captain's head, ready to execute him on the spot. But out of nowhere, Johanna fires the captain's shotgun, blasting Farley backward. Farley's surviving henchmen instantly draw their weapons to kill the young girl. But suddenly, one of Farley's own top men, a guy named John Kelly, steps up. He was deeply moved by the captain's story of brotherhood, and he turns his gun on the henchmen, taking them down. Kelly fires a final shot to ensure Farley is gone for good, saving the captain and Johanna. Kelly warns them that the territory ahead is heavily hostile, crawling with dangerous factions, and even offers to join them for protection. But the captain gently declines, advising Kelly to stay and help the town rebuild. Before they part ways, Kelly hands the captain a small, reliable revolver for extra defense. The captain and Johanna push forward, eventually entering the desolate, sweeping mountain territory of the Kiowa people. The captain tells Johanna to keep softly humming her Kiowa songs. He figures that if any tribal warriors are scouting nearby, the sound of her voice will let them know they mean absolutely no harm. But disaster strikes on a dangerously steep mountain slope. The wagon's brakes suddenly fail, and the heavy cart goes hurtling out of control down the rocky incline. Realizing it's about to flip, the captain screams for Johanna to jump, and they both throw themselves onto the hard dirt just as the wagon plunges over a massive ledge, smashing into pieces. They survive the fall, but their horses are horribly injured, pinned beneath the wreckage and crying out in agony. With a heavy heart and no other choice, the captain has to use his weapon to humanely put the horses out of their misery. Now, they are stranded in the middle of a vast, scorching desert with absolutely no ride, miles away from civilization. They salvage what little water and food they can carry and begin walking. Hours turn into days under the blazing sun, and the brutal heat takes a massive toll on their bodies. Johanna grows completely exhausted, her strength totally vanishing, and their water supply runs bone dry. Refusing to give up on her, the captain scoops Johanna up into his arms and forces himself to keep marching through the blinding heat. Suddenly, he spots a massive cloud of dust billowing on the horizon. Hoping it's a passing caravan, he gently sets Johanna down and stumbles toward it. But it's not horses, it's a massive, violent sandstorm sweeping across the desert plains. Within seconds, the blinding dust swallows them whole, and in the chaotic whiteout, the captain completely loses his grip on Johanna. He screams her name into the roaring winds, desperately searching the dust, terrified that he has lost her forever. When the fierce winds finally die down, the captain looks up and catches his breath. A group of Kiowa travelers has appeared out of the dust. The captain freezes, terrified they might attack him. But they aren't here to fight. They recognize Johanna as a child of their tribe, and seeing her desperate situation, they show immense kindness. They hand her a strong, fresh horse to help her survive, and then they quietly disappear into the horizon without shedding a drop of blood. Mounted on the new horse, the captain and Johanna ride the final stretch of their grueling journey, at last arriving in the town of Castroville. But as they get closer, Johanna grows incredibly quiet, tightly holding onto the captain, silently begging him not to leave her. The captain tracks down Johanna's biological aunt and uncle and introduces her. He sits down with them, explains everything they've been through, and hands her over, believing with all his heart that a child belongs with her true family. With a deeply heavy heart, he says his final goodbyes. But Johanna is deeply hurt and angry. She feels abandoned all over again and refuses to even look at him as he rides away. The captain rides back to his own hometown, his soul feeling completely empty. He approaches his old house, unlocks the door, and steps inside. The place is totally deserted, covered in a thick layer of dust, looking as though no one has lived there for an eternity. He finds a small box belonging to his wife, opens it, and takes a breath, completely overwhelmed by memories of the woman he loved. Later, he meets up with an old friend at the local church, where the crushing truth is finally revealed to him. While he was away fighting in the brutal 5-year war, his wife contracted cholera and passed away. He was so far away on the battlefield that he couldn't be there to hold her hand or say goodbye. 4 years, the captain had been carrying a massive mountain of guilt, feeling like his absence was the ultimate punishment for his life. But his friend gently comforts him, reminding him that no one can outrun fate, and it wasn't his fault. The captain walks out to the quiet cemetery, stands before his wife's grave, and lets the tears flow. He gently takes off his wedding ring, leaves it on her headstone, and finally says goodbye to his past forever. And in that exact moment of ultimate loss, a realization hits him like a lightning bolt. Johanna wasn't just a job or a responsibility he had to drop off. She was his family. Without wasting a single second, the captain leaps onto his horse and races all the way back to Castroville. But when he arrives at the aunt and uncle's farm, The scene completely shatters his heart. Johanna's relatives have literally tied her to a wooden post in the yard with a long rope because she repeatedly tried to escape and refused to do farm work. Furious, the captain storms onto the property and unties her. Johanna is still visibly upset with him for leaving her behind, but the captain drops to his knees. Using the broken, heartfelt Kiowa language she had taught him on the road, he looks her dead in the eye with tears streaming down his face and promises her, "Your home is with me." Hearing those words, Johanna's anger completely melts away. She bursts into tears, sprints forward, and throws her arms around him in a massive hug. Seeing the undeniable bond and the pure happiness in the girl's eyes, her aunt and uncle realize they can never give her the life she needs, and they willingly let her go with the captain. We fast forward into the future, and Captain Kidd is back to doing what he does best, traveling and reading the news to big crowds. But this time, he is absolutely not alone. Johanna is right there on stage next to him. She sits happily by his side, using wooden blocks to create loud, energetic sound effects that perfectly punctuate his stories, keeping the entire audience completely captivated. And when the captain proudly introduces her to the cheering crowd as Johanna Kidd, it's beautiful. He has officially adopted her as his daughter, and Johanna looks up at him with total peace in her eyes. After a lifetime of loss, she has finally found her true home. If this beautiful story of family and survival touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and join the Cinemaned family right now. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world, and it's what keeps these incredible cinematic stories alive. See you in the next one.